I want to take you on a path down what it's like to become disabled. And I know a lot of people go through this. It just wrecks their lives. And I've seen too many people get so down on themselves, they've even ended their lives because of it. And this is something that I feel that I'm drawn to help people who, especially newly disabled people, but all through your journey, the long and windy road down a deep cavern, it is definitely the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. And I want to kind of walk through the steps of why it's so hard, what you can expect to go through, and then get to a point where I offer some hope and guidance when you're dealing with this. The first thing I want to talk about is the actual disability itself. Now, this is a big blow to anyone. I'm going to give it from my perspective, and obviously there's so many different types of disability, mental or physical, but mine was a failed back surgery. So I had, some back pain, and it kept getting worse and worse. And finally, the doctors gave me a test. It was called a discogram, and it sounds like fun, but it's not. It's basically a torture chamber where they put you in there and put you in as much pain as possible to see exactly where your pain is, so they know what they're dealing with. Well, they recommended surgery. I went and had a double layer fusion, woke up and couldn't feel my right thigh, and that freaked me out badly. But by the next day, or really later that evening, I was wishing I couldn't feel that thigh because it was in throbbing, horrible pain. And this was, the whole thing leading up to that before the surgeries was just a prelude to it. As bad as it was, the real pain was after this. But we're just going to go by whatever your disability is, that is going to cause you can't think about anything else. You literally will sit there and just be overcome by you will be sucked into a void of thinking about nothing but that pain. And that is something that just kind of wrecks your life. And the only upside about that is you're thinking so much about your pain, you're not as depressed and everything yet. That kind of comes at a later date, once the reality of the whole thing starts setting in. So even to this day, my mind tricks me and tells me I can do things like bending over to pick up a certain, whatever is on the ground. And then I realize, I can't really do that very easily, and I'll pay for it. So your mind is not caught up to your actual physical pain yet. And that is something you have to adjust for. And eventually, you will start to get a little bit better at it. But even to this day, I will say, look, I'm a big rock collector, or big rock hound, and I'll see a nice rock and I'll be like, I could pick that up and carry that in my backpack home or something. And I will pay for that for a week or two. And going on a trip or something, oh man, I am, I try to put on the happiest face I can because everyone around you doesn't want to be brought down, but it really is, it's a type of torture. I mean, you're getting tortured all day long, constantly. So your body and your mind have to kind of sync up and learn what you can and can't do anymore. And that is, being somebody who used to do so much, that was a horrible reality I had to face. Then comes the next nightmarish situation you have to face, and that is applying for disability. Now, applying for disability is intentionally, I believe, just awful. I mean, you have to go through so much. I was lucky to have had private disability through my work, and that really saved me a lot. But if you're relying on Social Security disability, you are going to be waiting sometimes up to 2 years. It took me about 18 months, and that was a time in my life where I couldn't. You have extra bills, so that, you're already down your income, so you're without you could be the main income. If you're the main provider for your home and you go on disability, it is a complete shock. You have to try to figure out ways to make a little bit of money here and there, the best you can, while dealing with all of these issues. If you can even move, if you're not mobile at all, then it's going to all fall on your partner or whoever to try to take up that slack. And they're already in a deep depression because they have been kind of ripped from their lives. They are used to certain things in their life, and after that, you can't do those things anymore. I mean, because you are not able to, and that'll create depression, that'll create anger, that'll create all kinds of problems between you and your family and whoever's taking care of you or whoever's your support system. So that leads me to the next kind of, we'll call them the levels of hell. The next level of hell, it is your social life. So your family life is going to be greatly affected. If you're not an optimistic person, if you don't have a partner who is, or someone who is, it's going to get bad, because you are going to just be in one constant just depression and anger fest. I mean, it is like a snowball barreling down the hill, turning into an avalanche. And it is something that once you see how bad your family's affected, then you've got to look at, it's going to affect them even more, because you realize your social life is pretty much done. I could not even go and sit. I have trouble even sitting on a chair or standing in one place for more than a couple minutes. And, so if you can't even sit or stand, what are you going to do? You can't go out and have fun like you used to. You can't, your friends, your good friends will stick around, but really most of your friends will abandon you because, first of all, you're pushing them away because you're in your depression. Second of all, they don't want to be around somebody who's just a drag all the time. It sounds bad, but that's just the reality. They don't want to sit there and see, oh man, my friend's life's just gone to hell, and there's really not looking like there's any light at the end of that tunnel, and they don't want to be in that. And I understand. And another big problem with this, and this goes for family, this goes for friends, this goes for everyone, is a lot of times, especially if you've had an invisible injury like me, like you can look at me and see, oh, I can still walk, I can still do certain things. So of course I'm not disabled, I'm just probably gaming the system or something. Well, they will start thinking, they're just trying to leech off the system, and they're not really, they're just faking their injury. And people in their minds they don't come at you with compassion for the most part. You'll find some people that do, but really a lot of people will just look at you like you're just an outcast and you're just a leech, and whatever they're conjuring in their mind, because you don't know anybody's reality. You don't know if somebody's suffering from horrible pain. You don't know if you can't see it. If somebody's in a wheelchair or something like that, it's a little different because they can actually see, hey, you're there in the wheelchair, so this is all, noticeable. But if you are still moving around and still can do things, then you can just expect people are going to be bitter at you, and your family especially, people, I know my wife was just it was so hard for her because she still, I think to this day, I mean, in your mind, you have I forget what they call, like a normality bias or something like that. And really, when you go from being able to be the provider for the house, being able to fix everything around the house, do all these things, and you go from that to being basically worthless you're going to be worthless for at least the first couple months to a year. And for me, it was years. It was a decade. And when you go from that, there will be spite within your family, because you're not just affecting yourself, you're affecting your whole circle around you. So people will either look at you with pity, they'll look at you with, thinking you're, like I said, thinking you're a leech. And I mean, they will conjure all kinds of things in their heads because they don't come at you with that compassion. You do one thing, you have a good day and go walking for 2 miles or something, and then it's clear to everyone, oh, there's nothing wrong with you, you're just faking it. Well, I mean, you have to get over this, and you have to stop caring what others think. Of course, you try to support, emotionally your wife or your partner or anyone who's taking care of you, and you try to do your best with that, but it's going to be trying, because you have so many things that justifiably put you in an awful, depressed, just broken down mood. And because of that, it's hard to be the optimist. I'm the optimist by far in my family. I always have been. And it was gone. I felt sorry for myself. I was lost in my pain. I was lost in my depression. And it all was just a big spiral all the way to the bottom. Okay, so with all of this newfound pain, with all this newfound depression, you will be, unless you were very fiscally responsible beforehand and saved a ton of money and, had your private disability and had, all these safety measures in place, you're going to be just destroyed by, this is a time where you're going to most likely have doctor bill after doctor bill. I had the 4 surgeries over a couple years, and these doctor bills were just piling up and piling up. You have that on top of the loss of your main income, and just you're hemorrhaging money. You don't have anything anymore. I pretty much knew I only had a few options. I had my parents help me out a little bit, as much as they could, but my main option was, I knew I was going to go bankrupt. So luckily I had decent credit beforehand. I just started putting everything on the credit cards, and then I had to do what I had to do. Don't feel bad about it. I mean, it's not something that anyone expects differently of. What would they do in that situation? There's nothing else you can do. You do what you can to get by. You get through the storm, and once you ride out that storm, then you've got to move on from there, and you just have to take one issue at a time and just tackle one issue at a time and take it slow. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up here because it's starting to rain. I'm probably going to go film the second video in my car, because I really want to talk a lot about this. But this is something that you have to understand that it's not going to be easy. But I've got some hope coming to you in this second video, and I will make sure you watch that one if you watch this one. And I've got some more levels of hell to discuss too, but it's going to get rough, and I'm going to try to guide you with as much hope as I can.